G'day everyone, welcome back to Talking Leadership. This is Eric Perez, your podcast host, welcoming you back to our ongoing discussion on all things leadership. And today we're moving slightly away from the typical entrepreneur or straight leadership discussion and to talk to a gentleman and co-founder of a social enterprise known as TradeMutt. His name is Daniel Allen. How are you, Daniel?
Good, thanks, Eric. Thanks very much for having me.
Mate, I appreciate you coming on board. The other co-founder, Mr. Ed Ross, couldn't join us today, which is a shame, but that's all right. I'll catch up with Ed at another point and ask him these same very pointed questions. Mate, I'd like to start asking you, if I can, what drove you to, and yourself in particular, to start TradeMutt? What was the catalyst, mate?
Well, there's really a few ingredients that sort of came together to make this the right, the right business venture for me and for us. But I've been a carpenter for 10 years. Got into a carpentry apprenticeship when I finished school, and that took me from Sydney, where I'm originally from, up to Brisbane, and it also took me on a journey of self-discovery and I suppose really finding out who I am whilst trying to build my confidence and skills as a tradie. In that journey from Sydney to Brisbane, I made some new mates, and one of the mates I made early on, whose name was also Dan, playing for the same soccer team together. He quickly became like a brother to me, and I sort of became like a little bit of a mentor to him because he had quite a troubled past, and I was sort of I suppose you could say I became a bit of a positive role model in his life. Ed and I met on a building site in 2014. As chance would have it, a pretty crazy story for us to come together. Both had very separate situations that ended us up on the same building site on the same day, working for the same builder together. And we very quickly became best mates. Ed was, I was a few years out of my trade, and Ed was first day of his apprenticeship. And I became Ed's mentor as well. And he became my apprentice. And we solidified a really strong mateship, and also, as work colleagues and work buddies. Ed and I used to talk a whole lot of nonsense on site together every day, sort of as you tend to do in different workplaces, to help sort of, ease that pain of what can be monotonous work. Talking all sorts of ideas of how we were going to, make a name for ourselves, or, what you'd do if you won the lotto, or all that kind of stuff. One idea that we had was it'd be great if we could wear something different to work. And, we're sick of wearing the same old high-vis khaki, sort of all that sort of stuff. We thought, geez, why hasn't anyone made any funky workwear, So that was an idea, and it sort of just sat there, and we kind of thought nothing of it. But in 2015, sort of start of December 2015, I awoke on a Sunday morning to the tragic news that one of my best mates, Dan, had taken his life the night before. And that was my first experience with suicide. And it obviously shocked and, rocked my world, and went through that whole range of emotions that people tend to go through when they experience something like that, which was really difficult to navigate at the time. But, lean on a lot of support networks and stuff to help get you through that. But coming out of that, sort of in the year after that experience, Ed and I continued to talk about this idea of workwear, and we actually started to look into it and explore whether we could actually make that happen, just make a couple shirts. And as we were exploring that, we met some people along the way, as you do in networking, and we, met other people who introduced us to other people, and we learned about the idea of social enterprise and using profit for purpose. And we just had our first sort of shirts designed and some patterns, and learning about social enterprise, we thought, wow, it'd be great if we could do something positive in the mental health space, for tradies, given what I'd been through, losing Dan, and also given the fact that we come from blue collar industries, and that was it, it all sort of just fell into place. And that's the direction we started to go down. And a lot of people kind of laughed at us, or, thought that's a, ridiculous idea, but we went for it. And we launched on the 15th of March 2018, and almost 2.5 years later, and here we are. So it's been a crazy journey.
Mate, I appreciate the intro and the level of disclosure there. Like I find it difficult to find somebody that doesn't know someone who's been through or known someone who has taken their own life. Myself, I lost a mate in grade 12, and I lost a mate later on in life, sort of in my 30s, from the same high school. And it makes you stop and think in the moment, and you go through all the processes that you go through when you're grieving for someone. But never in my mind did I think, how can I help other people get through it? Because you're always thinking about yourself and what it means for you until someone gets you out of that space, and you go through all the emotions that's connected with that. So look, I appreciate it. So again, so the link between TradeMutt, then you guys are collectively founded, sorry, I'm trying to find proper English here. You use your component of your profits to start a foundation to talk about mental health. Is that the connection there?
So basically, TradeMutt, we make funky workwear designed to act as a catalyst to starting conversations about mental health. And as we say, make an invisible issue impossible to ignore. So we're trying to take a bit of a lighthearted, a bit more of a chilled out, a bit more of a relaxed approach to the conversation. And we consider TradeMutt to be in essence, trying to drive the social and cultural shift in the way that we talk about and perceive mental health. So as a social enterprise, 5% of our profits are donated towards mental health organisations. However, again, in our entrepreneurial journey, we soon realised that there wasn't too much out there that was really speaking to tradies. There's a lot of crisis support services. However, we really wanted to be able to provide something, or we saw a big gap to be able to help people before they get to crisis point as a much more preventative measure, I suppose, to prevent people from getting to that point. So we founded our own not-for-profit. This is a conversation starter foundation. So every work shirt has emblazoned across the back, this is a conversation starter. If it's not bleedingly obvious by the funky prints, well, we had it written on the back. And so, that's the name of our foundation. So this is a conversation starter, or the acronym that we use, TAX Foundation. So, currently TradeMutt helps fund TAX, and we provide free access to mental health professionals for tradies, truckies, and blue collar workers. And as we say, whether you're a tradie, truckie, or blue collar worker, don't let it get any harder. Text or call. This is a conversation starter. So it's quite a full circle approach, I suppose, to the mental health space.
Right, and obviously you guys, well, not obviously, have you guys expanded beyond Queensland, or is it just Queensland based at the moment?
We've being an e-commerce business, we have the luxury of being able to reach every corner of the globe, which is absolutely insane. But we've gone, Queensland is obviously our bread and butter, but we've expanded into, we've got really good pickup across all states around Australia, and we've made it to Antarctica, we've made it to Mount Everest, we've made it to Alaska, gold mines in Alaska. We've got pictures of shirts all over the world, so it's been absolutely incredible.
Mate, that's brilliant. And I guess one of the things that shines out here in the entrepreneurs that I've had the pleasure to speak with on the podcast is that despite people saying you're crazy for doing what you did, you found a gap in that mental health space market for blue collar workers, and you went in and did something that no one else is doing. Did it frustrate you? And this goes along this idea of having to set something up off your own back, that government has kind of vacated this space for certain trades and certain industries, or is it not up to government? This is a leadership question, maybe bigger than any one business or yourselves, because you guys have started small and obviously will get hopefully bigger and bigger. Do they have a role to play or not?
I think that one of the complexities of the mental health space is that all too often we are, I suppose, you've got governments and leaders like that trying to solve a problem at a governmental level, but really for an issue like mental health, the shift needs to come at a grassroots level, from the ground up. As I talk about the social and the cultural shift in attitude, no one's really interested in a politician throwing, another, however much money at a service and saying, here you go, we've ticked the box, you need to use it. We really need to come from the ground up and at a grassroots level and be talking about it at a peer-to-peer level. And I think that's where we've really had some great impact. So I don't think anyone's to blame or it's annoying that there's a hole in the market. It's just basically more about identifying what sort of change actually needs to occur. And sometimes some people are better than others to create that change. And I think given the fact that between Ed and I, we've both got a combined 15 years experience on the tools. Well, we're not psychologists, we're not politicians, we're just a couple of blokes doing a thing. And that's kept it nice and relatable, and much more relatable for people to actually reach out and sort of either seek help or actually just talk about this at a peer-to-peer level. So it's just a different approach for what is a complex topic.
Yeah, Sure. The reaction amongst your peers, let alone other people across the trades, what kind of feedback have you had? Because I guess when you talk about, and this is coming back to your leadership credentials and whether you're thinking about this, and the name of the podcast is Talking Leadership, as I'm looking at it from that lens, listening to what you've got to say, that really put your neck out there and you're doing stuff that no one else is doing. Was that a difficult step to take, or did the suicide of your friend, was that the thing that made you get over that hurdle? Whether it worked or not, you were going to give it a go?
You got to understand where we started, right? We spent every last dollar that we had to make 1,500 work shirts, right? That was our goal. We went out, we spent every last dollar. We bought 2 computers, 1,500 work shirts. And the worst possible outcome for us was that we were each going to have 750 work shirts each to wear to work for the rest of our lives because we couldn't sell them. So that's where we started. There was no thought of, we want to be these guys, or, we want to put our neck out to start this conversation. All we did was make a shirt that was designed to start a conversation, and that conversation has rapidly grown, and we've grown with it. So yeah, to answer your question, it probably hasn't. I don't know how we imagined this turning out, or who we thought we were going to be within this, but we started with a simple idea. It's grown into something that we're super passionate about, and we've become those people who, I suppose, the face behind the brand. So yeah, it's just we've taken on a responsibility, or we've felt like, we've taken on a responsibility to continue this and to grow and evolve and lead by example. And we're more than willing to do that. I think we feel very fortunate to be in a position where we can make a difference, and we're not going to die wondering. So yeah, we're going to keep evolving and growing and doing what's got to be done to keep driving this social shift.
When we talk about social enterprises and social entrepreneurialism, it's a very different thing to straight entrepreneurialism. The social enterprise space, did you know much about it before you got into this, or did you, you mentioned your networking before, did you have others sort of tap you on the shoulder and go, shit, you've got a big idea here, this is what it might look like? Did you bring in other people, or was it just you and Ed driving forward?
No, we didn't really know anything about social enterprise when we started. We just, as I said, simple idea. We wanted to help make an invisible issue impossible to ignore, right? So, there's many different types of social enterprises, and there's many different ways that people measure impact as well. And we're obviously having a crack at, our cause is mental health, and we're in the game of reducing the rate of suicide in Australia, right? It's an extremely difficult one to measure, and so, but this is the game we're in, and we're going to do everything that we can to help drive that social shift. Do we know everything about it? No. Have we asked for help all the way along? Yes. My God, we've needed a lot of help. There's things that we're good at that other people aren't good at, and there's things that are crucial within a business that we've just got no idea about. We're good at being a couple of personalities. We're good at marketing. We're good at standing up for what we believe in. But I suck at numbers, right? And I'm not interested in numbers. But I know in a business, numbers are the key. If the numbers don't stack up, well, then you've got no chance. Whatever your cause is, if the numbers don't stack up, you're buggered. So yeah, we've met people. We've got key people who have come on board since day dot, the right people at the right time who fill those key roles, CFO, obviously production is one thing. We don't know anything. We know how to build houses, but we don't know how to build a shirt. So we fumbled our way through that until we could afford to bring on, key people in those roles. Design, we suck at design. We know what we like when we see it, but we don't know how to produce designs and create them. So yeah, we've navigated the past 2.5 years very much ourselves, but we've never been afraid to ask for help, because there's people out there who are far more, well equipped to do certain jobs, and you need to get help off those people, because there's a reason why they like what they do, and there's a reason why we like what we do. And if you can find that mix, well, then you're laughing, right? If you can find those right people to come on board who believe in your cause and who believe in your product, then yeah, that's the number one thing to keep it going.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And in fact, it in some ways, well, in a lot of ways, it ground truth what I've been hearing from other entrepreneurs. Not that I'm at all suggesting that they've been lying or not telling the whole truth, but I guess in the space that you play, finding other people that can fulfill those roles with you not feeling the need that you need to micromanage all of that stuff. I was going to use another word, but we'll call it stuff, all of that stuff to make the business work. That's awesome. Breaking the stigma around mental health, let alone health overall, because I think, speaking for our gender, men are shit at looking after their own health. They're crap about talking about feelings, all the stuff. And you're shaking your head. For those listening, Dan is agreeing furiously here. How do you break that cycle? And did you learn by doing, or did somebody say, hey, these are some tips and tricks? Because for those that are listening, it's a great skill to have, to be able to see that in somebody, when you can spot someone and go, maybe there's something not quite right here. Campaigns like Are You Okay? And others that have come up, asking a very simple question can get someone over that hump without them thinking about doing something silly down the track. They have someone they can talk to. Well, what's your view on that, mate?
It's such a complex and multi-layered topic, right? So I don't think there's any sort of, and one thing to be cautious of, I think, is that, there's two things to consider here. Firstly, so there's a difference between mental health and mental illness, right? They're on two different spectrums, but you can jump spectrums. You can find yourself on the negative end of mental health, and if you sit there for long enough, you can jump down to becoming mentally ill, and then that spectrum can turn into all sorts of different things. So they're different spectrums, but they can cross over. So it's important to I guess recognize that initially, and then have an open mind and understand that on those two spectrums, people can be anywhere at any one time, and you may not necessarily know that. Some people take medication, some people fight anxiety on a daily basis but keep it hidden so well. I think a lot of us understand a feeling of anxiety. I think now more than ever, the world feels very anxious at the moment, and I've had many sleepless nights. Sometimes you stay awake at night and you're not sure why you're awake, but you can't turn your brain off, and you'd kill just to get a little bit of sleep. I suppose it's a very complicated topic. And so the only way that we really uncomplicate it is by talking about it, and by talking more openly about it, and understanding when it comes to mental health, there's a lot of statistics, right? There's, if you look at industries, genders, age brackets, there's a whole bunch of different statistics that tell all sorts of different stories. We don't really buy into statistics in the mental health space because we don't really believe in sort of scaremongering as a way of making people change their ways when it comes to mental health. If statistics worked, no one would smoke. B, there is one statistic that isn't being spoken about enough, and it's the only statistics that I really care about, and that's that if you're a living, breathing human, 100% of us have mental health. And it's just something that we need to accept. We ride that spectrum of mental health all throughout our lives. And we ride it with our family lives, with our workplaces, with grief, all sorts of different things. So the number one thing we've got to do is embrace the fact that we do have mental health. It's nothing that we can bury our head in the sand about. It's just something that we've all got. One thing that I'm really passionate about is helping to develop vocabulary around emotional intelligence. So there's a lot of complicated words in the mental health space. And I firmly believe that so many people, in a literal sense, don't quite have the vocabulary to articulate a lot of the ways they are feeling. And so they don't bother doing that out of fear of sounding stupid, not to mention things like shame and all that sort of stuff. But there's one thing I know for sure, is that the only way you get better at that is by starting somewhere. And talking about it is the best place to start, and it's the best place to continue to develop that emotional intelligence, that knowledge and that vocabulary. The more we talk about it, the easier it becomes to continue to talk about it. The more we talk about it, the easier it is for us to identify patterns and thoughts and the way we're feeling and different triggers. And the more we reach out for help, the easier it is to reach out for help again and again and again. So for a complicated topic, if you can dial it right back to just talking a little bit more openly, cutting the bullshit, I suppose, and just realizing that we all have mental health. No one gets through unscathed, and there's no such thing as a tough bloke that doesn't talk about his feelings, because we know how he's feeling on the inside. So yeah, conversation's key.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, thank you for ending on that. What is a positive note that we have to accept that this thing is real. So for my guests, I've been speaking to Dan from TradeMutt. Dan, thank you for your time.
No worries, Eric. Thanks so much for having me.
No worries. And for those listening, thanks again for joining us. And I'll put a link to what TradeMutt is up to, and I would urge people to have a look and. If you can support you guys. Now, what's a way to get people to support you? Buying shirts, obviously.
Shirt sales keeps the lights on around here. So, www.trademutt.com. We've got our own podcast, 120 Grit, the podcast for the working class. We're doing monthly toolbox talks for free, which is our way of sort of giving back to the community with some really knowledgeable and valuable resources. And also we've got our not-for-profit foundation, tax.org. So for anyone out there, if you don't have to just be a tradie, truckie or blue collar worker, you can be a support network or a loved one of that community. But we've got access to professional psychologists for free, which is unheard of. You don't have to get on a mental health plan. You don't have to make an appointment with your GP, but that number is 0488 469 88, and you can check out more about TAX at www.tax.org.
That's really, mate. Thank you very much. Those listening, this has been Talking Leadership. Thanks for your time, and I'll catch you all on the next podcast.